Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day here. Happy Monday to you, if there is such a thing. And we're going to take a look at Avalanche, see kind of what's going on here, so you can understand best practice and big picture. And this is a request from one of my community members, of course, because we do have an open swing trade with this. We're wondering when it's going to recover, and I can tell you that it likely will. It's a very strong coin in the overall sense of things, but it got hit pretty hard here recently, a lot harder than most expected. So totally get that, but I think that it looks like it wants to come back and recover here today. And it's a good sign of seeing what we're seeing here so far with Bitcoin still kind of misbehaving. So just keep that in mind. This is a pretty positive highlight here. We're going to look at that and much more. If you're new to the channel though, not a financial advisor, love teaching people how to trade. Hope you can learn something here today. I've got a trading academy, community, and signal group. If you'd like to consider joining, link in the description below there. I do offer discounts for military and third world countries. Taking a look here at Avalanche. So big picture here is what's going on is a simple fact that we've got a pretty strong bounce off of 30 on the RSI. On the daily, typically anytime you come close to 30 on the RSI, you're going to see a recovery. Now, it may not be a strong recovery like we saw here previously back in January, because once again, Bitcoin was performing quite well at that time as far as a bounce off of that key level support. I think it was somewhere in the range of 35,000, and it ramped back up to 42, 44, somewhere in that range. So Bitcoin recovered quite nicely, and we got to understand right now Bitcoin isn't necessarily recovering. Sure, it's up a small percent on the day, but generally speaking, we're not seeing any higher highs. We're not seeing any confirmation, no higher lows. It's really just consistently on the downtrend. So to see this here, it's a positive sign in that sense because it kind of tells us that there's a likely support level in this range right at about, $55. Okay. In other words, that's the lowest point in which you wanted to go back in January when Bitcoin hit 32 to 33,000 right in that range. It candle wicked all the way down there. With us being this low right now, while that's disadvantageous in the sense that we test that level already and we're only at 37,000 for Bitcoin, the fact that it ramped up and bounced back is a good sign too. But you also got to keep in mind, this is probably likely just that knee-jerk reaction to the price being so low and oversold that most people are trying to buy it now. It seems very affordable and realistic. So I do think that there was a specific dump that occurred here recently, a massive sell-off that was kind of unnecessary, and the likelihood of it coming back to recover is, I feel, fairly high at this point. But once again, standard stuff, bouncing off of that key level support, essentially based on the fact that it's overextended. That's kind of the takeaway here. Looking at the MACD though here, to double check, we can see there's no real shift in momentum per se. It's still too early to tell, but we can see that the bears are potentially losing control here. In other words, that momentum is shifting, so it's inevitable for us to have a convergence if we continue to maintain this kind of slow increase up and sideways. All right, so mostly good stuff there for Avalanche on the larger time frame. Bear in mind we're obviously well below key level resistances such as the 50 and the 200-day SMA, and we also have $65 as a potential area that might cause some resistance, because you can see here, same level there that was a previous support. Now it's effectively a resistance level, so we got to respect the fact that $65, we could see some turbulence there when we get back in that range. 4 hour, similar stuff to Bitcoin here in that sense, where we're seeing pretty much everything getting rejected by the 50-day SMA. So I think a close above the 50-day SMA would be helpful. We did have one previously before with a potential, basically a dead cat, but that's when Bitcoin was ramping up to like 43,000, and then it sold off down to 39 almost instantly. So we've seen this decrease in value overall from Avalanche because of that, but once again, fairly good coin here. It's got some good fundamentals, big picture. It's really, it's fantastic coin to use if you want to try to transfer funds. Honestly, it's extremely low cost, and it's very fast too. So I like Avalanche in the overall sense of things. This is in my hodl bag, and I do feel like it's going to be worth some eventually, and worth a lot more. But for right now, we want to try to take a look at the smaller stuff. So just keep in mind we're under the 50-day SMA. Once again, reaffirming the close above $65 would be positive. If we take a look at the RSI, we're getting rejected at 50 tentatively. It's basically not necessarily getting rejected, but it's right there. And if you can see, we've been stuck under 50 on the RSI in the 4 hour for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, or sorry, that's more like roughly about 2 weeks here. We broke above once again for this little dead cat that we highlighted, but for the most part, you can pretty much see a significant bearish divergence here based on the RSI alone. Like, it's only peaked up over once in the last month, and that was kind of a a tentative little trick by Bitcoin to get a nice little bull trap there to kind of clear out of the leverage positions. That being said, we're at 50 on the RSI. A close above 50 on the RSI would be helpful. But once again, we need to see more further continuation and possibly even the price come down and bounce off of 50 to confirm that that is essentially the thing. I really can confidently say a close above $65 would be very helpful at this point. But we'll take what we can get. We've got 4 hours of nice continuation here to the upside. Taking a look at TD sequential, we're obviously only 4 hours in, but we did previously hit a 9, and look at how overexhausted this became. We hit a 9 here, boom, traveled down to a 9, it went into extreme overtime. So Avalanche got hit hard, probably harder than most, but this last weekend was just it was a dump fest. Like everything was bright red in on Saturday. It was an insane decrease in value. Like market capitalization for Bitcoin went up, and all the altcoins went down. So this is kind of that relief recovery, so to speak, you could say. Will it last forever? No. We're going to have some turbulence when we hit $65, and of course, some other key level resistances we'll worry about later. But for now, we're not overextended yet. We are pushing up here, nice to kind of break this little recent lull over the weekend. And with more volume, which I'm speculating we have more volume now, which we do, we should expect the price to continue to progress higher to test $65. I think that's very likely at this point. Take a look, though, at the last thing here. Of course, Ichimoku cloud, we just broke above the cloud too, which is fantastic. Well, we don't have a 4-hour MACD convergence, which makes perfect sense considering how hard and hammered it got recently. We are seeing that shift in momentum here, so to speak, back above these key levels resistances based on the cloud. And if you look at this here too, Avalanche hasn't been above the cloud comfortably since back in April on the 18th. So it's been 2.5, maybe 3 weeks as a rough estimate for the price action to be stuck underneath the cloud. So this is a very positive sign. This is this kind of breaking above the cloud, up in the sunshine. It's nice stuff here, right? So I can comfortably say here that Avalanche looks like it wants to continue to progress higher. It's very common, once again, when we see such a strong sell-off to a very overextended state on the RSI and the daily, that we're getting that little relief here. And I do feel like, tentatively, for right now, $55 is likely the bottom, just based, once again, on recent closes earlier this year. And again, if you kind of look here, the price is pretty much parallel to where it was at in January when Bitcoin was oversold. Okay, in other words, it's much lower now than it was before, even though Bitcoin was higher. Okay, so since Bitcoin is higher right now, it kind of tells us it's extremely overextended. We have that that bullish type of conversions that should occur, and we should anticipate the price to continue to progress higher. We also can kind of look here as well. If you look at the generally just the last 6, what is that? Actually more like 9 months. Actually, we can go back a little further, but it might be a little skewed. Let's go back right here so we can see all the data. Yeah, so roughly about 10 months here. In the last 10 months, we can see $65 is almost exactly the strongest volume profile we can see. So again, that's going to cause that resistance when we get there. But if we can break above, close soundly above $65, that should work as a support level, and we shouldn't expect to see prices as low as 55 again. Okay. So I would say that we have mostly positive stuff here from Avalanche. Obviously, the shorter time frame looks better than the larger time frame. I get that, and I'm not saying it's going to just kind of catapult further higher. But I can tell you that dollar cost average between 55 and 62 is a pretty decent figure for Avalanche compared to where it should and could be eventually. And I do think that we are going to see this continue based on the fact that Bitcoin is generally struggling right now, and I think we've hit our bottom for Avalanche. Once again, tentative bottom depending on how Bitcoin performs, but this does look like it's performing a lot better than most coins right now, but it's a little too early to tell. $65, let's go ahead and set our sights on 65 and see what happens from there. So I hope you learned something here today, of course. If you did, comment below, like and subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. If you want to become a better trader, I have a trading academy, community, and I share signals for every single trade that I take. We've been taking a lot of shorts recently, and I tell you what, they're mostly profitable. I would be careful taking a long position right now overall in the market, because with the exception of coins like these, you're not seeing a lot of positivity across the market. It's mostly red, things are selling off, and that's the way to make money right now. Either way, those are things that we're doing. I look forward to working with you if you decide you want to go that route. Once again, military discounts, third world country discounts. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a good one. Thank you.